I'm here right now with Coach Patrick Defoe from Misericordia University out in Pennsylvania here, who is here at St. Joe's Metuchen in Metuchen, New Jersey for the Garden State Wrestling Camps here that's going on this week and weekend. Coach, thanks for coming on today.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So I'm sure, as a Division III wrestling coach in the collegiate level, I'm sure you're definitely starting to see and kind of pick out and see like kids that really look like they could be potential for college wrestling. Talk a little bit about what you really saw today, and as far as like the clinic and everything, in terms of like kids that really stood out to you today.
Of course. So it's been really great to get out here and be able to see the different talent of a lot of variety. There's majority of girls here from New Jersey, which New Jersey is a powerhouse when it comes to bringing girls in. Lots of great reps who are out there putting it all on the mat. There are a couple girls from Connecticut as well who are really making marks when it comes down to it as well. Really, a lot of what I'm looking for is, everybody's going to continue to go and continue to put everything that they have on the mat. We're in the middle of the summer, we're coming to an end, school's about to start, but these are the girls that are out here continuing to work, continuing to put in effort, and it's going to make a lot more of a difference for them when their season comes up. And for those who are seniors, it's going to make a lot of difference for coaches like me who are coming out and they're looking for the girls who are continuing to improve themselves. It's not just a one season sport, it continues to be a season round, all seasons sport.
Now, talk a little bit. I'm going to kind of follow up on that too, as far as like the all season long sport. But many sports have like their little bit of like time to themselves, and they kind of like make sure that they get what they need. And wrestling also does as well too. But it seems like wrestling is like, I don't want to say it's like easier to get time in the off season to get mat time, but it seems like it's like one of those sports that just never stops really. Whereas like once football season's over, it's over, and you get little practices here and there. But wrestling just keeps going and going and going. Why is that? What makes wrestling continuous like that all year round?
So wrestling is just well established. While there is a lot that goes into being able to wrestle and hosting tournaments and duels and things like that, everything is pretty much set up. It just comes down to people who are willing to actually take the time and put it all together and create that opportunity. Now, every high school that has a wrestling mat, can do some sort of open practice or, some sort of summer camp, things along those lines. Same thing with any university. They host clinics and they host a lot of opportunities for students to come in and check things out as well. So a lot of times it's usually just ready to go and it's right there. It might take a little bit of time unrolling some mats, but the opportunity is almost everywhere you go. Almost any high school that you go to will have it. It's just a matter of who's actually taking the time to bring it out, who's going to continue doing that. And then I also attribute it a lot to the growth of women's sports as well. As women's sports continues to grow, the girls' opportunity at the high school level also continues to grow. There are a lot of girls who are still wrestling with boys' teams. And because things are continuing to skyrocket with girls and women's wrestling being the number one fastest growing sport in the U.S., it just really comes down to, where is it going to come up next? Where is that next opportunity going to come? Who's going to be the first on their girls team as well? And then the same thing goes for everywhere else. As it gets more popular in an area, places like this, maybe some years ago probably didn't have girls or, at least a dedicated girls area. Maybe they were mixed with the guys, but there probably weren't that many if there were at all. But now that it is prominent, now that it is in a very sufficient area of growing, the opportunity is there. It just comes down to people to put it on.
What are some differences that you see in at that competition level between what you see in women's wrestling and men's wrestling?
So obviously, the number one thing is going to be the freestyle versus the folk style. Personally, when it comes down to the freestyle aspect versus folk style, I do appreciate a lot more what the girls do with freestyle as opposed to the folk style. And that's simply because it makes it a better transition for girls to go on into postseason and, world efforts, basically. While guys are continuing to do folk style at the high school and college level, girls get the opportunity to branch into freestyle, which is the international style. Well, the more prominent one. There's also Greco, but freestyle is definitely the more popular of the two. And from there, it just, I think it gives more opportunity. USA Wrestling is a lot more involved. We have the NWCA that is highly connected with all of wrestling, but obviously, trying to promote college and other sorts of sports and everything outside of that as well. Freestyle really kind of brings it all together, because it's also, when you bring in an Olympian to, possibly teach practice and be involved in some way, yeah, they're going to be able to go over folk style, but they're acclimated to freestyle.
Why is that? Why is it like different from like the men's, where they're focused on folk style that they've learned their whole life, and then women's going to freestyle? What was the reasoning behind all of that?
I believe that the men's is just kind of what it is. This is what it's been for years. So no reason to change it. It brings in plenty of revenue and provides plenty of entertainment at the end of the day. So making a big change, because a lot of people don't really think, your average wrestler and your average parents don't really think about like what's beyond like high school wrestling, what might be beyond college wrestling. There's a lot of people who just don't know about freestyle and Greco style wrestling. So at the end of the day, I think it's best to stick with what's working. And I think women's and girls wrestling took an opportunity to change things up, because they said, we're a new sport and we're wrestling, but this is also another way that we can stand out and we can make this more prominent as well. Because you go to any other countries, they don't do folk style at all. They solely do freestyle and Greco.
Of course.
I think the girls took a really, really great advantage of the opportunity that they had here. And I think promoting the freestyle wrestling is way better for them.
And do you think, like, kind of following up on that, do you feel that that's really acclimating for the girls as they graduate from the youth and high school levels and they go to college? Do you think they're really acclimating well once they get to that style? Like, are they already going out for freestyle when they're in high school, so that way they're preparing for college? Or
So there are a lot of girls that are, it's still kind of a developmental phase, I would say. There's a lot of girls who are out and they're wrestling, which is great. Are they going out and they're doing freestyle? Not as much as any of us coaches would really like to see. And at the end of the day, somebody like me who works in Division 3, it's going to be a tougher time, because anybody who's wrestling freestyle for the girls right now are probably going to be your more prominent, more skilled, and more advanced wrestlers as well. So trying to pull them on will be a little bit more difficult, because I think that they're going to have that competitive edge, and they're going to show that this is what they want to do. This is where they want to continue to be. And it just puts them in so much of a better position for better opportunity as well. I think as it continues to be normalized over the next few years, I think it'll continue to kind of drive down, because girls are going to go, okay, now I can wrestle. And then now the thought's going to be, well, now I can wrestle, but if I want to wrestle in college, now I have to do freestyle. So now I think it's going to start getting mixed a little bit more and brought down to, your average kind of tournament. It's not like a national basis, it's not, was it a few weeks ago, we had the New Ways in Atlantic City. They had folk style and freestyle. That's a pretty big tournament. So I think as things continue to be normalized and expand for the girls, I think the same thing will happen, where freestyle will kind of leak its way back down into high school and be more normalized as well.
I feel like it really is building up on that. I mean, it's crazy to really see, but it's amazing to see. But, Coach, thank you so much for coming on. That was really like very in-depth interview. Kind of keeps me lost, not in a bad way at all. I just think it's just very insightful, and just really seeing that, because that was just something I was always curious about, and I wanted to even know about it myself. And I've been around wrestling almost my entire life, but it's kind of interesting to see that side. So
awesome. I'm glad I could inform you. And obviously, if there's anything else I can do, I'd be more than happy to help.
of course. Well, thank you, Coach. This is Coach Defoe right here, James Clark from GSHSW.com.